Welcome. I want you to really pay attention right now because what I am about to share can truly change the way you live your life. If you have ever heard someone's name and forgotten it almost immediately, if you studied for hours and then your mind went completely blank during an exam, or if you walked into a room and suddenly forgot why you went there in the first place, then this message is not just helpful for you. It is meant for you. If your head often feels full, like too much information is fighting for space, and you struggle to remember the things that actually matter, you are not alone. I have been there myself. And today I am going to show you the exact process that helped me unlock my mind, strengthen my memory, and remember information in a way that actually lasts. This is not one of those shallow videos that promises 5 quick tricks and then leaves you disappointed. What I am sharing with you is a deep and practical system. It completely changed the way my brain works, and if you start using it today, it can do the same for you. There is another bonus too. As you listen to this, your English will naturally improve. You will hear clear, strong, real-life English sentences. Your understanding will grow and your vocabulary will expand without memorizing boring word lists. So whether your goal is to pass exams, remember what you read, speak English more confidently, or train your mind to work at a higher level, stay with me until the end. If you truly apply what I am about to explain, you will stop losing important information. More than that, you will finally trust your mind again. And that feeling changes everything. Let us start. Step 1. Understand how memory really works and why you forget things. Before you can learn how to remember anything, you need to understand why forgetting happens in the first place. Most people blame themselves. They say things like, "I am not smart," or "my brain is weak," or "I just cannot memorize things." I used to believe that too. But the truth is very different. You do not have a bad memory. What you actually have is an untrained memory. The real problem is that no one ever taught us how memory works. So let me explain it in the simplest way possible. I want you to imagine your brain as a huge library. Every time you learn something new, a name, a date, a fact, or an idea, it is like placing a new book on a shelf inside that library. But here is the problem. If you throw the book anywhere, if you do not label it, organize it, or come back to look at it again, it gets lost among thousands of other books. That is exactly what happens in your mind. Information enters your brain, but it does not stay there because your brain never properly stores it. Most information never makes the journey from short-term memory to long-term memory. And that journey is everything. Let me break this down clearly. Short-term memory works like a whiteboard. You write something on it, but if you do not save it or copy it somewhere else, it gets erased. Long-term memory is more like a notebook written in ink. Once something is stored there, it stays with you for a very long time, sometimes forever. The mistake most people make is keeping everything on the whiteboard. They hear a name and never repeat it. They read a page but feel nothing while reading it. They study for exams by cramming and never review the material later. Because of that, the information never moves into long-term memory. And when that happens, it disappears. Let me give you a simple real-life example. Imagine you are at a party. You meet a guy and he smiles and says, "Hi, I am Jason." You shake his hand, talk for a few minutes, and then walk away. A short time later, someone asks you, "Hey, what was that guy's name?" And suddenly your mind goes empty. That happens because your brain only heard the name. It did not do anything with it. You did not repeat it. You did not connect it to a feeling. You did not picture anything in your mind. So the name faded away almost instantly. Now imagine a different situation. You meet Jason again, but this time you tell yourself, Jason like Jason Statham, the actor. Maybe the guy even looks a little bit like him. You smile to yourself. You repeat the name in your head. In that moment, your brain creates a connection. And that is when memory starts to work. So when I meet him, I make a point to use his name right away. I will say, "Hey, it is nice to meet you, Jason." Then I bring it back again a little later, like, "Jason, what do you do these days?" When I do that, my brain is not just hearing a sound. It is paying attention, making a connection, and repeating it. That repetition builds a stronger mental path. And the next time I see him, I remember him. That is why I always say this. Memory is not some special gift you are born with. It is a skill you train. And like any skill, it gets easier once you understand how it works. If you keep tossing information into your head with no system, you are going to keep feeling confused and overwhelmed. But when you start using the right method, you finally feel like you are the one in control. So before we go any further, I want you to keep one thing in your mind. Your memory is not broken. Your system is broken. And starting today, we are going to build a better system together. Now let us move on. Step 2. Give your full attention because you cannot remember what you never truly noticed. Here is the hard truth, and I am not saying it to be rude. Most people do not really have a memory problem. What they have is an attention problem. Think about it. You cannot remember something you never clearly saw. You cannot recall something your brain never fully listened to. And you cannot store information that your mind did not focus on in the first place. That is why attention matters so much. And I will tell you straight up, if you do not fix this one thing, the other memory steps will not work the way they should. Every single day, your brain gets hit with millions of bits of input. Sounds, colors, movement, words, faces, messages, notifications, random noise, headlines, voices, and so much more. If your brain tried to keep all of it, you would lose your mind. So your brain does what it has to do. It filters. It decides what stays and what gets tossed out. And the way it decides is simple. It follows your attention. If you focus on something, your brain marks it as important and keeps it. If you do not focus, it fades out like it never happened. That is why attention is the key that opens the door to memory. Let me give you a clear example. Picture yourself getting out of a taxi. You are exhausted. You are staring at your phone. You are thinking about dinner. You pay the driver, step out, and without even realizing it, you leave your bag in the car. 5 minutes later, you feel that punch in your stomach. You think, oh no, my bag, my passport, my laptop. Now you try to remember the license plate number, but your brain gives you nothing. Not because you are stupid. Not because your memory is bad. But because you were never really paying attention to the car. You looked at it, but you did not truly notice it. You heard the driver talking, but you were not really listening. Your brain never saved the details because you never told it those details mattered. Now imagine the same moment, but you do one small thing differently. Right before you step out, you pause for 1 second. You glance at the plate. You notice the driver's face. And you tell yourself, all right, this is a white Toyota, and the plate number is 8473. That tiny moment of attention, literally 1 second, could save you from losing everything. And this happens in normal life all the time. You sit in a classroom or you watch a video online and someone says something important, but your mind is already somewhere else. You technically hear the words but they do not sink in. Or you read a sentence but at the same time, your brain is busy replaying a song you heard earlier. Your eyes move across the page but the meaning never fully enters your mind. I have seen this happen so many times and I used to do it myself. I would put on a podcast or a lesson but at the same time I would be typing messages to a friend. Later I would complain and say, I studied but I do not remember anything. But the truth is I did not really study. My body was there but my mind was somewhere else. When your mind is not present, your memory will not be present either. And here is something important you need to hear. This is not because you are lazy or broken. The modern world is built to attack your attention. Social media, constant notifications, multitasking, endless noise, all of it trains your brain to stay distracted instead of focused. But the rule is simple. You cannot save a file if you never open it, so stop blaming your memory. The real issue is your focus. Memory always starts with attention. From now on, whenever you truly want to remember something, do this. Pause for a moment. Look at it. Listen carefully. Say it out loud if you can. Repeat it silently in your head. Give it your full attention for just 5 seconds. Those 5 seconds might seem small, but they can be the difference between remembering something for your entire life and losing it forever. Now you see it clearly. Attention is the doorway. If you never open that door, nothing gets inside. That is why this second step is the foundation of mastering your memory. Now let me move on to the next part. Step 3. Turn words into pictures because your brain thinks in images, not letters. Once your attention is trained, the next secret becomes very powerful. Your brain does not remember words the way you think it does. It remembers pictures. Think about this for a second. If I say the word elephant, what appears in your mind? You do not see the letters ELEPHANT. Instead, you instantly picture a huge gray animal with big ears, a long trunk and slow heavy steps. That is because your brain stores information as images, not text. So if you want to remember anything, a name, a word, a fact, or even a number, you must change it into a picture inside your mind. This single idea changes everything. Words by themselves are boring and abstract. Your brain does not know what to do with them. But images are alive. They have color. They move. They create emotion. And your brain loves that. Let me give you a simple example. You meet a woman named Lily. If you only tell yourself, Lily is her name, you will probably forget it within minutes. But now imagine something different. Picture her hair made of white lilies. Or imagine her holding a huge bouquet of lilies and smiling brightly. Now her name is attached to a clear picture. Your brain reacts and says, "This is interesting. Let us keep this." The stranger, funnier, or more exaggerated the image is, the stronger the memory becomes. Want to remember the word volcano? Do not just imagine a normal mountain. Picture a massive birthday cake exploding with hot red chocolate lava pouring out. Add sound, a loud boom. Add smell, burned chocolate in the air. It sounds ridiculous, but that is exactly why it works. Memory is built on emotion. Memory is built on movement. Memory is created when your brain feels excitement and says, "That is cool. I want to remember that." Let me show you how this works with a list. Say you want to remember these items: milk, eggs, book, shoes, cat. Do not memorize them like a machine. Instead, build a crazy picture story in your head. Imagine a giant carton of milk reading a book while sitting on a pair of shoes. A cat wearing glasses is watching, and eggs are falling from the sky like snow. Now you are smiling. Now you are seeing the scene clearly. And now you will remember the list easily. Why? Because your brain remembers stories and images, not dry bullet points. This technique is not some random idea I made up. Memory champions use it when they memorize hundreds of words in just minutes. Actors rely on it to hold long scripts in their heads. Language learners use it to lock in thousands of foreign words. Business speakers use it so they can stand on a stage and deliver a full presentation without looking down at notes. And now you can use the same tool too. From this point on, I do not want you to only read information. I want you to see it. I want you to feel it. I want you to bring it to life in your imagination like a short movie. Turn names into faces. Turn concepts into clear pictures. Turn boring facts into funny, strange images that stick. When you do that, your brain stops acting like a leaky bucket where everything slips out. Instead, it starts acting like a vault, packed with sharp, unforgettable pictures you can pull up anytime. This one step alone can make your memory about 10 times stronger, especially if you are learning English, building new vocabulary, preparing a speech, or trying to keep any information in your head for the long run. Step 4. Use the story method because your brain is built for stories, not lists. Here is a truth that changed everything for me. My brain does not enjoy dry facts that sit there with no meaning. But my brain loves drama. It loves characters. It loves emotion. It loves action. It loves stories. And that is exactly why this next tool is so powerful. If you want to remember something, wrap it inside a story. This method has been used for a long time by people who need strong memory skills. Memory champions use it. Hollywood actors use it. Teachers use it. Stage speakers use it. Even ancient philosophers used versions of this idea because they understood how the human mind works. Now let me show you why normal lists usually fail. Imagine someone looks at you and says, "Here is a list. Memorize it. Apple, horse, jacket, candle, ice cream, cloud, socks, chair, tree, monkey. Remember it." If you try the normal way, you might hold 3 or 4 words. If you push hard, maybe you get 6. But after 5 minutes, most of it is gone. Why does that happen? Because a list is disconnected. Every item is floating alone with no links between them. No feeling. No relationship. No movement. So I changed the method. Instead of memorizing, I build a wild little story that connects everything. Here we go. I picture a giant apple falling straight out of the sky and smacking a horse right on the head. The horse screams and takes off running. Then it crashes into a shop and steals a jacket like it is on some crazy mission. Now the horse is inside and it lights a candle so it can see better in the dark. But the candle gets too close to an ice cream cone, and the ice cream starts melting fast. Then the melting ice cream suddenly explodes upward and turns into a cloud. That cloud starts raining socks like a weird storm. One sock flies down and smacks a chair. And now the chair somehow grows into a tree. From the tree, a laughing monkey swings down like it is in a cartoon, looks right at you and gives you a big thumbs up. Now I pause. I close my eyes. And I replay that whole scene in my head. When I do that, I can remember every single word and I can even keep them in the exact order. Why? Because it is not a list anymore. It is a movie. Stories create connection because one thing leads naturally to the next. Stories have movement and the brain loves movement. Stories also create emotion even if it is just silly fun. Your brain basically says, "This is interesting. This is entertaining. Keep it." That is why children can remember fairy tales almost word for word, but then they forget their math lesson 5 minutes later. That is why movie lines stay stuck in your head for years, but news headlines disappear the next day. And this method is useful for real life, not just memory games. If I want to remember my to-do list, I can turn it into a quick story. If I want to remember foreign vocabulary, I can turn each word into a picture and connect the pictures into a story. If I want to give a speech without notes, I can make every main point part of one flowing story in my head. When I do it this way, I do not feel like I am forcing memorization. It feels natural. And here's the funny part. The story does not need to make perfect sense. Honestly, the more weird it is, the better it works. My brain holds on to surprise, not logic. So I give myself permission to be creative, a little strange, even childish if I want. Because this is not just memory improvement. To me, this is memory freedom. If you use the story method the right way, you can take anything boring and turn it into something your mind refuses to forget. That is the real superpower behind strong memory. Step 5. Practice spaced repetition because learning something once is not real learning. Now I want to tell you a painful truth about school exams and memory. Cramming is not true learning. And just because you memorized something one time does not mean it is stored in your brain forever. Your brain needs time. It needs space. And it needs repetition at the right moments to lock information in permanently. This is where spaced repetition completely changes the game. In my experience, it is one of the strongest memory techniques ever created. People who learn languages use it. Medical students depend on it. Memory champions swear by it. High performers in every field quietly use this system, even if they do not always call it by name. Let me explain it in a way that is easy to understand even for a child. I want you to imagine memory like writing words in the sand at the beach. On the first day you write something clearly and you can see it perfectly. But then time passes. The wind blows. Waves come in. Slowly the words start to fade. After a few days there is nothing left. This is not your fault. This is how the human brain works. Scientists even have a name for it. It is called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. It simply means that if you do not review information, your brain naturally lets it disappear. So how do we beat forgetting? We do not fight it. We work with it. Here is the system. You learn something one time. Then you review it after 1 hour. Then you look at it again the next day. After that, you review it 2 days later. Then 4 days later. Then 1 week later. Then 2 weeks later. Every time you come back to the same information, your brain reacts. It says, "I am seeing this again. This must matter." And each time, it stores the memory deeper and deeper. After about 5 or 6 spaced reviews, that memory becomes stable. It stops fading. It is no longer sand writing. It becomes more like carving words into stone. Let me show you how this works with a real example. Say I learn a new English word, serendipity. It means finding something good without searching for it. I feel proud when I learn it. I might even tell a friend about it, but then I never see the word again. 1 week later, it is gone from my mind. Why did that happen? Because I only met the word once. Now let me do it the right way. On day 1, I learned the word serendipity. 1 hour later, I write a sentence using it. I found a beautiful book by serendipity. That night, I say the word out loud again before bed. On day 2, I try to use it naturally in a conversation. On day 4, I write a short story that includes the word. On day 7, I hear it in a podcast and I smile because I recognize it. On day 14, I explain the word to someone else. Now that word is no longer just vocabulary. It belongs to me. I did not just meet it once. I built a relationship with it. And that is how memory truly works. A lot of learners use tools like Anki, Quizlet, or Brainscape. These applications test you automatically at the right time using spaced intervals. But even if you never use an application, you can still do this with a notebook and a calendar. You can write the date. Review every few days. Come back again and again. The magic is not in the tool. The magic is in the timing. So many people feel frustrated. They say things like, I already read this. Why do I not remember it? Or, I studied for 5 hours. Where did everything go? The answer is always the same. No review means no memory. Learning something once is like watering a plant one time and then walking away forever. Spaced repetition is like watering it gently again and again until it grows strong roots and stands tall on its own. If you truly apply this method, your memory will stop being temporary. It will become stable, reliable, and ready whenever you need it. Now let me move to the next step. Step 6. Use emotional connection because feelings lock memories in place. I am about to share something very powerful. Once I understood this, my memory started changing in a deep way. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the memory. Think about your own life for a moment. Do you remember what clothes you wore 7 days ago? Probably not. But you clearly remember the day someone broke your heart. You remember the moment you felt embarrassed in front of others. You remember the time someone gave you a sincere compliment that touched you deeply. Why does that happen? Because your brain does not only store information, it stores emotion. That is why this step is so important. If you want something to stay in your memory, you must connect it to a feeling. You can read a sentence 10 times and forget it the next day. But if one sentence makes you laugh, cry, feel proud, or feel inspired, you might remember it for the rest of your life. That is the power of emotion. Emotion activates a part of the brain called the amygdala. When that part lights up, it sends a clear signal to your brain saying, "This matters. Save this permanently." So whenever I want to remember something, I ask myself a few simple questions. How does this make me feel? Can I connect this to something real in my life? Can I find a reason to care about this? Let me give you an example. Say you are studying a history date, April 15th, 1912. The ship Titanic went down on April 15th, 1912. Most people try to memorize that fact like a machine. They repeat the date, feel nothing, and then forget it soon after. That happens because there is no connection. Now let me show you a different way. Instead of just memorizing a date, I think about the human story behind it. I read how more than 1,500 people lost their lives. I imagine the musicians continuing to play as the ship slowly sank. I picture mothers holding their children close in the freezing night. I see couples whispering their final goodbyes. I think about strangers giving up their seats so someone else could live. In that moment, it stops being just a number on a page. It becomes a tragedy. It becomes a story of love, sacrifice, fear, and courage. And once I feel that, I never forget that date again. April 15, 1912, stays locked in my mind because it now carries emotion. That is why every time I learn something new, I ask myself a few questions. Can I connect this to my own life? Have I ever felt something similar? Can this make me feel happiness, anger, sadness, or surprise? If the answer is yes, my brain keeps it. If the answer is no, my brain treats it like useless noise and deletes it within hours. This even applies to learning English. When I learn a new word, I do not just memorize the definition. I try to feel the word. Take the word abandon. I do not only tell myself it means to leave something behind. I think about a moment when someone walked away from me, or a time I gave up on something I loved. Now the word is no longer just vocabulary. It becomes personal and it stays with me. Here is a small bonus trick. Sometimes the topic is boring, but you still have to learn it. In those cases, I create emotion on purpose even if it feels fake at first. For example, a math formula. The area of a triangle equals 1/2 times base times height. Sounds dull, right? So I imagine the triangle as a slice of pizza. I am hungry, but I only get half of it. That feeling of disappointment eating only half a slice locks the idea of 1/2 into my mind. It is silly, but it works. Your brain does not care about logic. It cares about emotion. Even fake emotion is better than no emotion at all. If you really understand and use this idea, learning stops feeling dead and dry. Every lesson starts to feel alive. And what feels alive in your mind does not die easily. Now let me move on. Step 7. Teach what you learn, because teaching means remembering twice. This might be one of the most underrated memory secrets in the world. If you truly want to remember something forever, teach it. Do not wait until tomorrow. Do not wait until next week. Teach it immediately after you learn it. The moment you teach something, you change roles. You stop being just a receiver of information and you become a creator. You stop being only a student and you begin acting like a master. And that shift changes everything. When I teach something, my brain is forced to do 3 powerful things. First, I must recall the information clearly. Second, I have to organize it in my mind. Third, I must explain it using my own words. This process forces my brain to rebuild the knowledge from the inside. And anything I can rebuild like that becomes very hard to forget. It is like carving information into stone. Let me give you an example. Say I learn the English word procrastinate. I read the definition and understand that it means delaying things I know I should do. If I close the book and say nothing, my brain might decide it is not important. Within a day, the word can disappear. But if I turn to a friend and say, "Hey, do you know the word procrastinate?" It means when we keep putting things off, like homework, exercise, or cleaning. I always procrastinate doing the dishes. Something powerful happens. Boom. My brain just locked that word in. Why? Because I did not only learn it, I used it, I shared it, I taught it. And when I say teaching, I do not mean you need to stand in front of a classroom. Teaching can be very simple. I can explain what I learned to a friend. I can talk to myself in the mirror. I can write a short post about it. I can record a voice message pretending I am explaining it to someone. I can even make a small video even if nobody ever watches it. I do not need an audience. I just need to activate the teacher inside me. When I do that, learning goes deeper than ever before. Studies show that students who learn something and then teach it can perform up to 90% better on tests. Doctors who teach new interns remember procedures more clearly. Even spiritual leaders say that when you teach, you heal twice, once for the other person and once for yourself. Teaching is not the end of learning. Teaching is proof that learning has truly happened. And it is one of the strongest mental tools you will ever use. And here is something I really love about this method. It costs nothing. It works fast. And you can start using it immediately. If I practice this step every day, my memory becomes sharper and sharper. Over time, I start feeling like my mind just gets it faster than before. And without trying, I even inspire other people to learn just by the way I think and remember. Now let me move on to the next technique. Step 8. Build a mind palace because your brain remembers places better than raw facts. This is one of the most famous memory techniques ever created. Ancient Greek thinkers used it thousands of years ago. Modern memory champions still use it today. And it is so powerful that people have used it to memorize full decks of playing cards, long speeches, and hundreds of random facts in just minutes. This technique is called the mind palace. And I am going to show you how I build one. So what exactly is a mind palace? Your brain is naturally excellent at remembering places. Think about it. You can probably remember the house you lived in as a child, even if it was 10 years ago. You remember the color of the walls, where the couch sat, the smell of the kitchen, or the corner where you liked to hide. That happens because your brain loves space. Locations give memory something solid to attach to. Now imagine this. What if you could place any information you want to remember inside a familiar location in your mind? You could mentally walk through that place and collect the information whenever you want. That is exactly what a mind palace is. Let me guide you through this in very simple steps. First, choose a place you know extremely well. Could be your home, your school, or your favorite cafe. The key is familiarity. You should be able to walk through it in your imagination without effort. For this example, I will choose my house. I picture myself opening the front door. Then I move into the living room. From there, I walk into the kitchen, then the bathroom, the bedroom, and finally the balcony. I try to see it clearly, almost like I am inside a video game. The clearer the image, the better the memory. Next, I assign information to each location. Let us say I want to remember the planets in order. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Here is how I place them inside my mind palace. In the living room, I imagine a frying pan on fire. That represents Mercury, hot like mercury in a thermometer. In the kitchen, I see a perfume bottle spraying pink mist everywhere. That is Venus, the goddess of beauty. In the bathroom, there is a spinning globe sitting in the bathtub. That is Earth. In the bedroom, red dust covers the bed. That is Mars, the red planet. On the balcony, a giant bouncing ball crashes around the space. That is Jupiter, the biggest planet. On the stairs, I picture a large ring wrapped around the stair pole. That is Saturn and its rings. On the terrace, I see a shaking ice cube sitting on a chair. That is Uranus, a very cold planet. At the gate, a deep blue ocean splashes at my feet. that is Neptune, the god of the sea. Now I close my eyes and mentally walk through my house again. Room by room, image by image. When I do that, I never forget the order of the planets. Why does this work? Because I am using locations my brain already knows well. I am placing vivid pictures inside those spaces. My brain naturally links memory to location, which makes the information stronger and easier to recall. This is the same method memory athletes use when they memorize hundreds of random numbers in perfect order. They simply place each number inside their mind palaces. The uses for this technique are endless. I can use it to memorize speeches, learn foreign vocabulary, remember facts and numbers, study for exams, or even plan my daily routine. The mind palace gives structure and the brain loves structure. Here are a few tips that help it work even better. Make the images inside your palace strange, emotional, or funny. Walk through your palace often and review it daily. Keep using the same palace again and again. The more familiar it becomes, the more powerful it gets. And if it feels difficult at first, that is normal. Just like any other ability, the more I practice this, the stronger it becomes. When I truly use these techniques, my brain stops being a place where information disappears. It turns into something solid and reliable, like a quiet temple where knowledge is stored safely, organized clearly, and ready whenever I need it. Now let me move on. Step 9. Review before sleep, because nighttime is when your brain chooses what to keep. There is something extremely important that schools almost never teach, even though science clearly supports it. What I do in the final 10 minutes before I fall asleep can decide what I remember for the rest of my life. Yes, my brain has a special power at night. And if I ignore it, I waste one of the best chances I have to build a strong memory. Let me explain this simply. When I go to sleep, my brain does not shut down. It gets busy. It starts cleaning, sorting, and storing everything I learned during the day. I like to imagine it as a librarian walking through a library at night, looking at every book I opened. The librarian decides, keep this one, delete this one, move this to long-term storage. This one is useless. So what tells the brain what to keep? 3 things work together: repetition, emotion, and timing. When I review something right before sleeping, I send a clear message to my brain. I am basically saying, this matters. Please save this. And my brain listens. Let me give you an example. Say I studied 10 English words in the afternoon. I felt good about it. But at night, instead of reviewing them, I scroll through social media, watch random videos, and look at silly memes. My brain sees all of that right before sleep and thinks, these things must be important. So it saves the funny videos. Meanwhile, my English words get deleted like trash. Now imagine a different routine. Before going to bed, I take just 5 quiet minutes. I sit down. I review my 10 English words. I whisper them. I use them in simple sentences. I feel proud of myself. Then I go to sleep. Now my brain says, yes, this matters. Let us move this into permanent memory. And when I wake up, I feel stronger. Here is a simple night routine anyone can follow. I turn off distractions. No phone. No loud sounds. I open my notebook or my flashcards. I review what I learned that day, even if it is only 5 key points. I say them out loud or quietly in my head. I close my eyes and visualize them. I feel calm and proud. Then I sleep peacefully. That small habit can completely change how my memory works. Here is why this step is so powerful. It does not require extra study time. It works with my natural sleep process. It strongly improves how memories are stored. It is supported by science. It builds discipline and consistency. It improves sleep quality and focus, not just memory. Most people ignore this hidden weapon. But people who master memory use it every single night. Now let me move to the next step. Step 10. Write things down, because writing is the save button of the brain. There is a clear reason people forget what they hear, forget what they read, and forget what they see. But they almost never forget what they write. Writing activates the brain in a completely different way. When I write, my thinking slows down. I have to organize my thoughts. And I create a strong connection between my hand, my mind, and the information. I like to think of writing as pressing the save button in my brain. If I do not write something down, it floats around and disappears. If I write it, it lands, locks in place, and stays. When I only read or listen, my brain stays passive. It says, "That sounds nice," and then forgets it shortly after. But when I write something in my own words, my brain wakes up. It says, "Wait, this is serious. I need to understand this." That is when real learning begins. Writing does not only help me remember words. It helps me understand meaning. And once I truly understand something, remembering it becomes easy. Let me give you a simple example. Say I want to learn the English word resilience. I read the definition. It means the ability to recover after difficult situations. I nod and think I understand it. But if I do nothing else, I will probably forget it tomorrow. So instead, I take my notebook and write. Word, resilience. Meaning, the ability to bounce back after hard times. Sentence, after losing his job, he did not give up. His resilience helped him find a new path. Personal connection. I want to become more resilient in my own life too. Now that word is no longer just information. It is part of me. This whole process only takes about 1 minute, but something powerful happens. The word you learn stops being just a definition on a page. It becomes a small story. Carries a feeling. It becomes part of your own life. When you do this, you are not just learning. You are writing information directly into your brain. Typing is quick, but writing by hand is real. When I type, my fingers move automatically. My mind can stay half asleep. But when I write with a pen, I slow down. I feel each letter. I see every shape. That physical movement creates deeper memory paths inside my brain. Even science confirms this. Students who write notes by hand remember much more than those who only type or highlight text. So if I truly want strong memory, I grab a pen, open a notebook, and make learning physical. What do I write down? Anything I never want to forget. New English words. Important facts. Powerful ideas. Motivational sentences. Key lessons from books or videos. Quotes that touched my heart. Thoughts that made me pause and reflect. Writing becomes my personal library. Page by page, I am building my own mind. And I can tell you this honestly, one notebook filled with real effort is worth more than 10 videos watched without action. From today on, I make writing a daily habit. Even one sentence is enough. Writing is not just good for memory. It is a quiet superpower. Now let me move forward. Step 11. Use active recall because testing yourself creates unshakable memory. Most people make a huge mistake when learning. They keep rereading the material and tell themselves, I understand this. I get it. But understanding something while looking at it is not the same as remembering it later. The real question is not, do I understand this right now? The real question is, can I remember this when it is not in front of me? If the answer is no, then the knowledge does not truly belong to me yet. This is where active recall comes in. It is one of the most honest and powerful memory techniques in the world. Active recall is simple. I close the book. I close the application. I pause the video. And I ask my brain to remember. No looking. No cheating. No copying. Just me, my mind, and the truth. That act of pulling information out forces my brain to grow stronger. The more I retrieve, the more my brain keeps. Let me give you an example. I read a sentence, consistency is more important than intensity. I like it. I understand it. Now I test myself. I cover the sentence and ask, what was that quote? What did it mean? Can I explain it in my own words? Can I say it clearly to someone else? At first, I might struggle. I might only remember part of it. And that is okay. That struggle is not failure. That struggle is learning. My brain is working, stretching, and building strength. I repeat this process the next day. I remember more. I do it again the next week. Now it sticks for life. This is exactly like going to the gym. Watching someone lift weights does nothing. Reading about lifting weights does nothing. Active recall is me lifting the mental weight myself. And every time I do it, my brain grows stronger. After I read something, I close the book and write what I remember. After I watch a video, I pause and say out loud what I learned. I use flashcards and try to answer before checking. Before sleep, I test myself on 3 things I learned that day. I do not reread. I retrieve. I do not review passively. I rebuild. Because retrieval builds retention. Yes, it feels uncomfortable. Yes, it is easier to just read again. But if I want memory that lasts, I must be willing to test myself quietly every single day. That is how champions are built. That is how deep knowledge is formed. Now let me bring this journey to its final step. Step 12. Protect your mind from overload because a crowded mind cannot remember anything. I want to end with a truth most people never talk about. A truth that silently destroys memory every day. Your brain was not designed to carry everything. It was designed to carry what matters. Right now, many minds are overloaded, full of noise, full of junk, full of information that has no place in their lives. Forgetting does not happen because people are lazy. It happens because the mind is cluttered. If my brain is filled with thousands of useless notifications, there is no room left for the one idea that could change my life. So I fix that. I look at my mornings. I notice how easy it is to scroll before my feet even touch the floor. I see how many opinions I absorb before breakfast. Videos, messages, headlines, noise. By the time the day begins, my brain is already tired. That is the hidden enemy of memory. Too much input. Not enough silence. My brain is like a glass of water. If I keep pouring without emptying it, it overflows. And when it overflows, things get lost. That is why simple things are forgotten. Not because they were unimportant, but because too many unimportant things were allowed in. The mind is a garden, not a garbage dump. If weeds grow everywhere, flowers cannot survive. So every day I ask myself honest questions. Is this helping me grow? Or is it filling my mind with clutter? Am I building myself? Or burying myself? To protect my memory, I build better boundaries. I start my day in silence, even for 5 minutes. I limit useless information. I unfollow noise. I mute distractions. I journal to empty my thoughts at night. I give myself time with no phone, just me and my mind. Not every message deserves my energy. Not every video deserves my time. Not every thought deserves space in my memory. I protect my mind the same way I protect my home. This is not optional anymore. This is survival in a world full of distraction. Because memory is not just about learning more. It is about making space for what truly matters. Now you know the 12 proven steps to remember things for life. Not tricks. Not shortcuts. Real systems that help you remember faster, speak better English, learn deeply, and trust your mind again. But I want to remind you of one final thing. Knowing these steps is not enough. You must live them. Real memory is built from daily choices. Do I write what I learn? Do I review before sleep? Do I test myself? Do I protect my attention? If the answer is yes, then welcome. You are no longer someone who just remembers better. You are becoming someone who remembers what matters. This journey was not only about memory. It was about waking up the real power inside your mind. And as a bonus, every word you listened to helped your English grow naturally too. So take this with you. Use it gently. Practice it daily. Your mind is ready now. Go out and make it unforgettable.